found very interesting, of course, Toronto being a community which is now 50% immigrant, is the increasing role that the public libraries are providing as a gateway to people who would not otherwise have access to technology services. The libraries now have become basically gateways to internet access for people who lack the financial resources. So compared to Kate's, people with the 5 TVs who don't want to pay to download, to purchase an application or a movie, you have many people in the city who are really deprived in terms of their access to the technology and the services, but also the skills that are required to effectively participate in a transformed economy. So I think that's something we have to bear in mind. I was at a policy seminar a few days ago talking about what's happened to Canada generally in the global context, and I've been working in this area for longer than I care to say, but during the early 90s, Canada was considered to be a leader when it came to technology from a whole variety of perspectives. We're now about, depending on how you measure it, we're 17th or 18th in terms of penetration of things like high-speed internet. We're I think 5th in terms of the cost of internet, which has a broadband, which has a profound impact on access. And we're very low on the scale, relatively speaking, around 20th in terms of the average speeds that are available. So from a global perspective, Canada's actually slipped quite dramatically over the last decade. And if you add to that the fact that we have these huge gaps based on geography, based on economy, based on new Canadians versus based on language, based on generations, I think the situation is not as rosy as many of the proponents of technology would lead us to believe. So that's one point I wanted to make. The second point is that the rate of change is astronomical. If you look at what the top sites are on the internet as of 2010, most of them were not on the top 10 list in 2005. So you see changes occurring very, very quickly, and it's very difficult to predict where things are going when change is occurring at that rate. The other thing that's important to understand is not only are there differences in terms of generational use of technology in a broad sense, but the way in which my generation uses technology compared to where are the kids in the room? Where are the 20-somethings? Is also profound. And so if you look at what people like me do on the internet, part of the reason we're subject to information overload is we're very much recipients of information. We're consumers of information. We're about half as likely as younger people to be producers of information. So there's also a gap based on how people are interacting. Our generation less likely to be posting materials, to be actively contributing to information on the internet. Rather, we're likely to be subjected to it. The other thing that's different is the multitasking, and it's a big adjustment for someone who's in a classroom. I mean, again, as Nadia mentioned, you now have a room of students who are doing 5 things at the same time. And it used to be that what we would do is we walk into the classroom and say, lids down, put your technology away, look at me or I'll think you're not paying attention. In fact, currently the thinking is if you don't let students do multiple things at the same time, they're absolutely not going to absorb what you're talking about. And if you look at the patterns of technology use, the average young person will typically be watching a movie, texting, and maybe listening to music at the same time. And that is a normal pattern in that age group. So what we have to start to think about is how to present particularly in the classroom, in ways that are going to keep them engaged. I think that's probably enough to get the discussion going, but I do think that the issue of the digital divide is something that we as a nation and as a community cannot overlook, and the focus is very much, especially in media, on the haves rather than the technology have-nots. Thank you.
Hi, can everyone hear me? I'm Edith Townsend. I'm a therapist at Bellwood Health Services, and Don actually asked me to come in and speak a little bit about addiction when it comes to digital technology. I bet you a lot of people here don't think that you can actually get addicted to digital technology. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a researcher, I'm a clinician. And I moved back into the country about 5 years ago, and I worked specifically with drug and alcohol users because historically addiction was characterized by psychoactive substances like drugs and alcohol, and that's really changed. There are many behaviors now that are accepted by psychology professionals as well as lay people. That certain behaviors are just as mood altering and have very similar symptoms to substance abuse disorders. Pathological gambling has really proven that. And pathological gambling has actually been used really as a template, I think, to look at other behavioral addictions. When I moved back here and started looking at Bellwood, I worked with problem gamblers and sex addicts, and I started to kind of become their expert in the process addictions, as they call them. So, and technology played an enormous role in that. If we think about sex and the internet, they go hand in hand, and a lot of maybe men coming to get treatment in regards to their pornography use. I work with a lot of problem gamblers who are, use their BlackBerries compulsively throughout the workday. They're corporate lawyers, businessmen, bright professionals, and they just compulsively use their BlackBerries all day long to make sports bets, use their laptops to play online online slot machines, and also I work with compulsive shoppers. So eBay has become a big part of that. And most recently, and I think most alarmingly, is some of the things that I've seen, and that I'm sure many of you have heard in the media about online video gaming. And so those have been some of my most recent clients, young 20-somethings, whose lives have been completely taken over by certain role-playing games and such. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of history. If we look at, I guess there's different, it's been coined different ways: pathological computer use, internet addiction disorder, and there's been two subtypes, right? One, there's where we really look at digital technology as the means to be addicted to. So there's certain things that the internet will give us that nothing else can, like online gaming and chat rooms, etc., that people can get addicted to. And then the other real subtype is looking at addictions that are already out there, and digital technology has exacerbated their use and made them much more potent and much more dangerous. So in 1996, Kimberly Young, she's kind of the pioneer when it comes to internet addiction disorder, and she proposed a paper for the American Psychological Association. And so she really looked at terming internet addiction disorder as a new mental disorder. And she wanted, right now there's a lot of advocates who want it in the DSM. Any of you who are know what that is? It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It is the Mental Health Bible, and there's going to be a new one in 2012. And internet addiction disorder, as well as online video gaming, has been proposed to be a part of that. So when she had done this paper in about 1996, there's been a lot of research that's really come out of it. So really, if you're looking at diagnosing internet addiction disorder, pathological gambling has been used as a template. So there's really 8 symptoms, and if you meet 5 of these criteria, you could be diagnosed with this habit. So I'm just going to read them out to you. You could do sort of your own self-assessment. And they really follow the main tenets of addiction. So, do you feel preoccupied with the internet? Thinking about previous online activity or anticipating your next online session? 2, do you feel the need to use the internet with increasing amounts of time in order to achieve satisfaction? 3, have you repeatedly made unsuccessful efforts to control, cut back, or stop your internet use? 4, do you feel restless, moody, depressed, or irritable when attempting to cut down or stop internet use? 5, do you stay online longer than originally intended? 6, have you jeopardized or risked the loss of a significant relationship, job, educational, or career opportunity because of the internet? 7, have you lied to family members or therapists or others to conceal the extent of involvement with the internet? And 8, do you use the internet as a way of escaping from problems or relieving a dysphoric mood? So feelings of depression, anxiety, guilt. And the most latest proposal, they had a lot of Chinese researchers who have said that the addiction had to last a minimum of 3 months and have a minimum of 6 hours of internet use per day that were how do they term it, non-essential, so non-work or school related. So that's been the diagnostic criteria that's been proposed. And she also puts it sort of in 4 subtypes. So cybersexual addiction, so people who surf the internet for pornography, mainly downloading, trading pornography. Cyber affair, relational addiction, more women get stuck in this. Making connections, social networking sites, a lot of chat rooms, making connections with other people and having cyber affairs. Net compulsions, that's really where a lot of my work has been a part of, the online gaming, the eBay, and the online gambling. And then the information overload piece. You know, for some people it's become sort of an obsessive compulsive trait where they just can't stop surfing the net. They can't, we had a client a long time ago who just couldn't, he just kept downloading music, but just compulsively, 8 hours a day. So one of the things, the internet is actually enormously seductive, and I think we're just beginning to realize the impact of how powerful it can be. I wanted to share with you, David Greenfield's another psychologist who's done a lot of research when it comes to internet addiction, and he has listed several factors of what makes the internet so addictive. And I want to share some of them with you because I think it's really important to sort of look at it and assess it. Anyways, he did say, he said that computers and the internet, and then their various access modalities, including cell phones, PDAs, etc., are easily abused, habit-forming, mood and conscious altering, and appear to be addictive to some individuals. And some of the factors that were really prominent were accessibility. So the internet never closes, it's always available. Time distortion, right? So most of us lose track of time and space when we're online. We can't really judge how long we're going to be on it. It's a means of connection. We're all humans, right? We like to connect with other people, and it lets us connect with people from all around the world. Anonymity plays a huge role. You can be whoever you want to be online. I have lots of clients who play, fantasy role-playing games. You can be anyone who you want to be. You can have a completely different life. Disinhibition, right? We say and do things. We were talking about that earlier. about some of the newspaper comments that it's gotten. People get very disinhibited online. You say things to other people that you probably write to me something much more sort of aggressive than you would say to my face. Accelerated intimacy, right? People end up expressing themselves much more openly. Cyber affairs are an enormous part of what we do at work. Ease of access, affordability. If you look at the internet, it provides cheap and really powerful entertainment. It's socially acceptable, right? We're not talking about heroin use. The internet is popular, accessible to most people. It never ends, right? So there's always another link. There's always another website. There's always an open chat room.